My granddaughter said at family lunch, "You're here because it's your house, not because you're welcome." I was speechless. The next day, I discovered something shocking about my daughter in law. Welcome back to another episode of Story Threads Podcast. My name is Emma, and today I'm here with Maggie, who came all the way from Portland, Oregon, to share today's absolutely unbelievable story. Before we get started, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for being here.
Emma, thank you for having me here today. You know, I never thought the most devastating words of my life would come from my own granddaughter's mouth. I'm 52 years old, and I've been through divorces, job losses, deaths in the family. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for what happened at our monthly family lunch last October. I was sitting at my own dining table, the same oak table my late husband built with his own hands, surrounded by my son David, his wife Jennifer, and my 19-year-old granddaughter Emma.
Yeah, same name as you, actually.
I'd spent the entire morning cooking everyone's favorites. Jennifer's beloved chicken parmesan, David's garlic mashed potatoes, and Emma's special chocolate chip cookies that I've been making for her since she was 5. The conversation was flowing normally. School, work, the usual family catch-up, when I casually mentioned wanting to redecorate the living room for the holidays. Nothing major, just maybe switching out some old throw pillows, adding some festive touches. That's when my granddaughter Emma looked up from her plate, fixed me with this cold stare I'd never seen before, and said with the most chilling calmness, "Grandma, you're here because this is your house, right?
Not because you're welcome."
The fork literally slipped from my hand and clattered onto the china. The silence that followed was deafening. My son David just kept eating like nothing happened, and Jennifer actually had this little smirk playing at the corner of her mouth, like she was enjoying some private joke. I felt my heart shatter in that moment. This was the same little girl I'd raised every summer when David was deployed overseas. The child who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms, who called me her best friend grandma, who insisted I read her 3 bedtime stories every night. What broke me wasn't just the cruelty of her words, it was the calculated way she said them.
Like she'd been rehearsing.
Like someone had been coaching her on exactly how to hurt me the most. I managed to whisper, "Emma, what do you mean by that?" But she just shrugged and said, "You know what I mean, Grandma. Just because you own this place doesn't mean we actually want you around." The rest of that lunch passed in a blur of forced conversation and fake smiles. I cleared plates with trembling hands, wondering how everything had gone so wrong. This house, the house my husband and I bought 30 years ago, where I'd hosted countless birthdays, Christmases, graduations, suddenly felt foreign. That night, I lay awake replaying every family interaction from the past few months, looking for clues I'd missed. And that's when I started noticing the pattern. The way Jennifer would roll her eyes when I offered to help with anything. How David had become distant, almost cold. The subtle comments about my old-fashioned ways and how I was set in my traditions. But what really made my blood run cold was realizing this wasn't spontaneous teenage rebellion. Someone had been systematically turning my granddaughter against me. And I was about to discover that the betrayal went deeper than I ever imagined. Because 3 days later, when I confronted my son about Emma's behavior, he revealed something that would change everything I thought I knew about my own family. So 3 days later, I called David and asked him to come over for coffee.
Just the two of us.
I needed to understand what was happening with Emma, because that comment at lunch had been eating at me non-stop. When David walked into my kitchen, the same kitchen where I'd bandaged his scraped knees and helped him with homework for 18 years, he looked different. Guarded. Like he was bracing for an argument he'd already rehearsed. "David," I said, pouring his coffee into his favorite Superman mug that I'd kept all these years, "we need to talk about Emma. That comment she made on Sunday was completely out of character for her." He didn't even look up from his phone. "Mom, she's 19. Teenagers say things they don't mean. She's not a teenager anymore, and that wasn't teenage rebellion.
That was calculated cruelty. Someone taught her how to hurt me like that."
That's when David finally looked at me, and Emma, the expression on his face was cold. Completely cold. Like I was some stranger bothering him instead of the woman who raised him alone after his father died. "Maybe," he said, setting down the mug harder than necessary, "Emma's just tired of walking on eggshells around you."
Walking on eggshells? I felt like I'd been slapped. "What are you talking about?" "Come on, Mom.
You have to admit you're a lot. Always asking questions, always having opinions about everything we do." Jennifer and I have been talking, and we think Emma might benefit from some space.
Jennifer and I have been talking. There it was.
The real source of this poison. I sat down across from my son, trying to keep my voice steady.
David, what exactly has Jennifer been saying about me?
He shifted uncomfortably.
She hasn't said anything wrong.
She's helped me see things from a different perspective. Like how you still treat me like I'm 12 years old. How you insert yourself into our family decisions.
Insert myself? I was his mother.
I'd been part of his family long before Jennifer showed up 4 years ago with her fake smile and her passive-aggressive comments disguised as helpful observations.
What family decisions? I asked.
Everything, Mom. Where we go for holidays, how we raise Emma, even what we eat when we come over here.
Jennifer pointed out how you always have to be in control.
Jennifer pointed out.
Every word was like a dagger.
My own son was sitting in my kitchen, drinking coffee from a mug I'd bought him when he was 7, telling me that his wife of 4 years had helped him see that his mother, who'd raised him alone, worked 2 jobs to pay for his college, been there for every milestone, was the problem.
David, I said carefully, has Jennifer been talking to Emma about me too?
The way his face went pale told me everything I needed to know. Look, Mom, Emma was starting to feel overwhelmed by your expectations. Jennifer just helped her understand that she doesn't have to accept everything without question.
My heart stopped. What expectations? What are you talking about?
The constant check-ins, the way you interrogate her about her grades, her friends, her plans. Jennifer helped Emma see that it's okay to set boundaries.
Set boundaries. That's what they were calling it.
Turning my granddaughter against me was helping her set boundaries. David, when have I ever done anything but love and support Emma?
When have I ever been anything but encouraging?
That's just it, Mom. Your version of supportive feels suffocating to her.
To all of us, actually. All of us.
So it wasn't just Jennifer poisoning Emma, she'd gotten to David too. My son, who used to call me his best friend, who brought me every problem, every triumph, every heartbreak.
How long has this been going on? I asked. David looked away.
Jennifer's just been helping us see patterns, Mom.
Things we never noticed before.
Patterns. I almost laughed at the absurdity of it.
The pattern of me loving them unconditionally.
The pattern of me being there whenever they needed anything. The pattern of me putting their happiness before my own for the past 30 years.
And you agree with her? You think I'm suffocating?
I think, David said, standing up and leaving his coffee unfinished, that maybe it's time you gave us some space to figure things out as our own family unit.
Our own family unit.
Emma, these weren't David's words. This was Jennifer speaking through him, using psychology buzzwords to dress up her manipulation. After he left, I sat alone in my kitchen for hours, replaying every family gathering from the past year. All those times Jennifer would raise her eyebrows when I offered to help with dishes. The way she'd smile tightly when I complimented Emma's achievements. How she'd steer conversations away whenever Emma and I started bonding over something. She'd been systematically undermining me for months, maybe years. Planting seeds of doubt, reframing my love as control, my involvement as intrusion. And she'd done it so subtly, so skillfully, that my own son believed it was his idea. But what really made my blood run cold was realizing that Emma, my sweet, loving granddaughter who used to tell me all her secrets, had been turned into a weapon. Jennifer had weaponized a 19-year-old girl's natural desire for independence and aimed it directly at my heart. That night, I did something I hadn't done since David's father died. I started planning for war. Because Jennifer thought she could steal my family, manipulate my granddaughter, and turn my own son against me? She had no idea who she was dealing with. And what I discovered about her over the next few days would change everything. Emma, what happened next was like watching my entire family systematically dismantled piece by piece.
Because Jennifer wasn't done. Not even close.
The very next weekend, we had Emma's 19th birthday celebration at my house. I'd spent days preparing everything. Her favorite lemon cake from scratch, the same recipe I'd been making for her since she was little, decorations in her favorite colors.
I was so hopeful, you know?
Maybe that horrible lunch comment was just a one-time thing, maybe we could get back to normal. But the moment Jennifer walked through my front door, I could feel the shift in energy. She had this presence. like she was conducting an orchestra of tension that only she could hear. Emma barely looked at me when she arrived. No hug, no thank you for all the preparation, just this cold politeness that felt worse than outright hostility.
And David?
He was like Jennifer's shadow, agreeing with everything she said, laughing at all her little comments. During the party, I was in the kitchen cutting the cake when I heard Jennifer talking to my neighbor Mrs. Patterson, who'd stopped by to wish Emma happy birthday. Jennifer was using this syrupy sweet voice, saying things like, "Oh, Maggie tries so hard, bless her heart, but sometimes grandparents can be a little overwhelming, you know? Emma's at such a delicate age where she needs space to find herself." Bless her heart. The southern passive-aggressive kiss of death. Mrs. Patterson looked so uncomfortable, and when she saw me standing there with the cake server in my hand, she quickly excused herself. That's when I knew Jennifer was spreading her poison beyond just my immediate family. But the real knife to my heart came when it was time to open presents. I'd gotten Emma a beautiful necklace, a vintage piece I'd been saving for her 19th birthday for years. It belonged to my mother, David's grandmother. When Emma opened it, instead of the joy I expected, she just stared at it. Then looked at Jennifer, almost like she was asking permission to react. Jennifer leaned over and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Oh, that's vintage."
How thoughtful, Maggie.
Emma, you know you don't have to wear things just because they're family heirlooms if they're not really your style. Emma immediately put the necklace back in the box and said, "Thanks, Grandma. It's
Nice. Nice.
My mother's necklace, which I'd cherished for 30 years, was nice." The final blow came when they were leaving. I hugged Emma goodbye, and she was so stiff, so reluctant. As they walked to the car, I heard Jennifer say to David, just loud enough for me to catch it, "See what I mean? She has to make everything about her emotions. That poor girl feels guilty just for not being excited enough." That night, I called my sister Ruth in California. I hadn't talked to her about family drama in years, but I was desperate. I needed someone who knew me, who could tell me I wasn't losing my mind. "Ruth," I said, trying not to cry, "I think I'm losing my granddaughter, and I don't understand how it happened so fast." She listened to everything, and when I finished, there was this long silence. Then Ruth said something that changed everything. "Maggie, honey, this sounds exactly like what happened to our cousin Linda in Phoenix. Her daughter-in-law did the same thing, turned the whole family against her using therapy speak and manipulation tactics. Linda almost lost her grandkids completely."
What did Linda do? I asked.
"She fought back. But she had to get smart about it first. Maggie, you can't fight manipulation with emotions.
You have to fight it with evidence and strategy."
That word, strategy, hit me like lightning. I'd been reacting emotionally to every attack, trying to defend myself with feelings and memories. But Jennifer was playing chess while I was playing checkers. After I hung up with Ruth, I sat in my living room looking at the birthday cake remains and the crumpled wrapping paper from Emma's gifts. That's when something inside me shifted. The hurt was still there, but underneath it, something harder was growing. I picked up my phone and started doing something I'd never done before, research. I Googled parental alienation, grandparent rights, manipulation tactics in families. 4 hours, I read article after article, and with each one, Jennifer's strategy became clearer. She was using classic manipulation techniques, isolating me from the family, reframing my love as control, positioning herself as the enlightened one who could help everyone see my true nature. She'd even turned my own son into her spokesperson. But as I read deeper into these articles, I found something else. Ways to document the behavior, ways to fight back, ways to expose manipulation for what it really was. By 3 a.m, I had filled an entire notebook with strategies and realized something crucial. Jennifer thought she was dealing with a grieving grandmother who would quietly accept being pushed out of her family's life. She had no idea she was dealing with a retired paralegal who'd spent 30 years learning how to build airtight cases. The next morning, I woke up with a clarity I hadn't felt in months. I wasn't going to lose my granddaughter without a fight. And I wasn't going to let Jennifer destroy my family's bonds with her psychological games. I made coffee, opened my laptop, and started building the most important case of my life. Because Jennifer wanted to play manipulation games?
Fine.
But she'd picked the wrong grandmother to mess with. What she was about to learn was that when you back a woman into a corner and threaten the thing she loves most, her family, you better be prepared for what comes next. Emma, The next few weeks were like a masterclass in strategic warfare. Because I wasn't just fighting for my relationship with my granddaughter, I was fighting for the truth itself. My first move was calling my old boss from the law firm where I'd worked for 30 years. Margaret Chen, one of the sharpest family law attorneys I'd ever met. When I explained what was happening, she didn't hesitate. "Maggie," she said, "what Jennifer's doing is textbook parental alienation syndrome. It's psychological abuse, and there are legal remedies.
But you need documentation. Everything.
So that's exactly what I did. I started documenting every interaction, every conversation, every family gathering. I bought a small digital recorder, the same kind I used to use for depositions, and I kept detailed notes with dates, times, and exact quotes. But Jennifer wasn't done with her manipulation campaign.
Oh no, she was just getting started.
2 weeks after Emma's birthday disaster, David called me with devastating news. "Mom, we've decided that Sunday dinners at your house aren't working anymore. Jennifer thinks it might be better if we scale back our visits for a while."
Scale back our visits.
Like I was some distant relative they were being polite to, not the woman who'd raised David and helped raise Emma. "David, we've had Sunday dinner together for 19 years.
Since Emma was born. What's really going on here?"
Jennifer just thinks. Well, she's noticed that Emma gets anxious before coming over. She thinks maybe you put too much pressure on family togetherness. Too much pressure on family togetherness.
I almost laughed at the absurdity.
Wanting to have dinner with my family once a week was now pressure.
"Has Emma actually said she doesn't want to come over?" I asked.
There was a long pause. "She's expressed some concerns about feeling judged." More Jennifer speak. My granddaughter, who used to help me set the table and always asked for seconds, now apparently felt judged in my home. "David, I need to ask you something directly. Is Jennifer coaching you on what to say to me?"
"Mom, nobody's coaching anybody.
Jennifer just has a different perspective on family dynamics. She studied psychology in college. That was Jennifer's new credential for dismantling our family, a bachelor's degree from 15 years ago. But the real gut punch came the following week. I was at the grocery store when I ran into Emma. She was alone, looking uncomfortable the moment she saw me. "Hi, Grandma," she said, but her voice was so cold, so distant. "Emma, sweetheart, I've missed you.
How are your classes going?" "Fine." One word.
This from the girl who used to call me every Tuesday just to chat about her day. I was thinking maybe we could have lunch sometime, just the two of us.
We could go to that little cafe you love.
"Grandma, I don't think that's a good idea right now."
The words hit me like a physical blow.
"Emma, what's happened between us?
What did I do wrong?"
She looked around nervously, like she was afraid someone might see us talking.
"You didn't do anything wrong, exactly. It's just, Jennifer helped me understand some things about boundaries.
And I think I need some space to figure out what kind of relationship I want with you."
Jennifer helped me understand.
There it was again, Jennifer positioning herself as Emma's enlightened guide, teaching my own granddaughter to reject me. That night, I made a decision that would change everything. I called a private investigator. His name was Marcus Rodriguez, and Margaret Chen had recommended him. Former police detective, specialized in family cases. When I met him at his office, I brought every piece of documentation I'd gathered. "Mrs. Patterson," he said after reviewing everything, "this is systematic psychological manipulation. But Jennifer's smart, she's not leaving obvious fingerprints.
We need to dig deeper." "What do you mean?"
"I mean we need to understand her motivations. Why is she so determined to isolate you from your family? This level of manipulation doesn't happen in a vacuum." Marcus started investigating Jennifer's background.
What he found made my blood run cold.
Jennifer wasn't just some innocent daughter-in-law with boundary issues.
She had a pattern.
Her previous relationships had ended the same way. She systematically isolated her partners from their families, then positioned herself as the only source of emotional support. "Look at this." Marcus showed me court documents on his laptop. Her ex-husband filed for divorce after she convinced him his mother was toxic and manipulative.
Sound familiar?
It was like looking at a blueprint of my current situation.
Jennifer had done this before, successfully.
But that's not all, Marcus continued. I found something interesting about her finances. She's been struggling with debt for 2 years. Credit cards, student loans, even money borrowed from David. I think she sees your family's stability as her ticket to financial security. Everything clicked into place. Jennifer wasn't just some misguided woman with psychology theories. She was a calculating predator who'd targeted my family for what we could provide her: stability, financial security, and complete control. But Marcus saved the best for last. Mrs. Patterson, I've been monitoring Jennifer's social media activity. She's been documenting her success in helping Emma grow emotionally on private Instagram stories. She actually calls herself Emma's emotional mentor and talks about liberating her from generational trauma patterns. I stared at the screenshots he showed me. Jennifer was literally using my granddaughter as content for her personal narrative of being some kind of family therapist hero. That's when the final piece of my strategy fell into place. Marcus, I said, I need you to get me everything, every social media post, every financial record you can legally access, every detail about her previous relationships. Because Jennifer thinks she's playing chess with a grieving grandmother who doesn't know the rules. I smiled for the first time in weeks. She has no idea she's been playing checkers with someone who helped build legal cases for 30 years. And her biggest mistake? She chose the wrong family to manipulate. The war Jennifer started was about to become a battle she never saw coming. So Emma, remember I told you Jennifer had no idea she'd picked the wrong grandmother to mess with? Well, it was time to show her exactly what 30 years of building legal cases had taught me. My first move was so simple, Jennifer never saw it coming. I called David and used her own manipulation tactics against her. I said, "Son, I've been doing a lot of thinking about what Jennifer said about boundaries, and you know what? She's absolutely right. I think I need to respect Emma's space and step back from the family for a while." David was completely thrown off. He'd been expecting me to fight, to beg, to create drama. Instead, I was agreeing with everything Jennifer had coached him to say. "Really, Mom? You're okay with that?" he stammered. "Of course, David. Jennifer clearly understands psychology better than I do. I don't want to be a toxic presence in Emma's life. I'm going to take some time to work on myself." That night, Jennifer was practically giddy. Emma told me later that Jennifer had been celebrating, telling everyone how she'd finally gotten through to me, how I was finally seeing reason. She even posted on her private Instagram story, "Sometimes you have to be firm with people who refuse to see their toxic patterns. But love wins in the end. Love wins." I screenshot that post for my evidence file. While Jennifer was celebrating her apparent victory, I was implementing phase 2 of my plan. I reached out to Emma's best friend Madison, who'd always loved me like a second grandmother. I didn't tell Madison what was happening. I just mentioned that Emma seemed distant and asked if everything was okay with her. Madison's response broke my heart but confirmed everything I suspected. "Mrs. Patterson, Emma's been so confused lately. She keeps saying things about you that don't sound like her at all. Yesterday she said you were controlling, but then 5 minutes later she was crying because she missed baking cookies with you." That's when I knew Jennifer's manipulation was causing Emma genuine psychological distress. My granddaughter was being torn apart internally, and that made my blood boil. Marcus, my private investigator, delivered the final pieces of evidence I needed. Jennifer's financial records showed she was drowning in debt, over $60,000 in credit card bills, student loans in default, and she'd been borrowing money from David for months. But the real goldmine was her social media activity. Marcus had documented dozens of posts where Jennifer positioned herself as Emma's emotional mentor and talked about liberating her from generational family patterns. She was literally using my granddaughter's pain as content for her personal brand. That's when I made the call that would change everything. I phoned Emma directly. "Emma, sweetheart, I need you to meet me for coffee. Just you and me. There's something important I need to show you." "Grandma, I don't think Jennifer would want me to." "Emma," I interrupted gently, "when did what Jennifer wants become more important than what you want? I'm your grandmother. I'm asking for 1 hour of your time." There was a long pause. Then, in a small voice, "Okay. But just 1 hour." We met at the little cafe where we used to have our grandmother-granddaughter dates. Emma looked so thin, so stressed. Dark circles under her eyes, fidgeting with her hands, all signs of the psychological manipulation she'd been enduring. I opened my laptop and showed her everything. The financial records proving Jennifer's desperation for money. The court documents from Jennifer's previous relationship, showing the identical pattern of family destruction. The social media posts where Jennifer bragged about manipulating Emma. But the most devastating evidence was a recording Marcus had obtained legally, Jennifer talking to her friend about her strategy. Jennifer's voice filled the cafe. The old woman is finally backing off. It took months of work, but I convinced David and the girl that she was toxic. Now David sees me as his emotional savior, and Emma thinks I'm protecting her from her controlling grandmother. It's perfect, they're both completely dependent on me now, and the grandmother's out of the picture. Emma's face went white as she listened. Her hands started shaking. Emma believes everything I tell her, Jennifer continued on the recording. She's so young and impressionable. I just had to reframe every loving gesture from her grandmother as manipulation. Now the girl actually feels guilty for wanting to spend time with her own grandmother.
It's almost too easy.
Emma started crying, not just tears, but deep, body-shaking sobs. Grandma, what did she do to me? Why can't I think straight anymore?
I feel so confused all the time.
That's when I realized the full extent of Jennifer's psychological abuse. My granddaughter wasn't just being manipulated, she was being systematically brainwashed. Emma, honey, Jennifer has been using advanced manipulation techniques on you. What you're feeling, that confusion, that guilt, it's not natural. It's what happens when someone rewires your thinking patterns.
Emma looked at me with such pain in her eyes.
Grandma, I said such horrible things to you. That comment about you not being welcome in your own house, that wasn't me.
But when I said it, it felt like it was my idea.
That's exactly how sophisticated manipulation works, sweetheart.
Jennifer made you believe her thoughts were your own thoughts.
Then Emma asked the question that broke my heart. What do I do now?
Dad thinks Jennifer is amazing. He won't believe any of this.
I smiled for the first time in weeks. Emma, your dad is about to get the education of his lifetime. Because Jennifer made one crucial mistake. She underestimated how much evidence a retired paralegal can gather when someone threatens her family. That evening, I invited David and Jennifer to my house for dinner. I told them I wanted to apologize for my behavior and discuss how we could move forward as a family. Jennifer walked into my dining room like a queen surveying her conquered territory. She was practically glowing with triumph, confident that she'd successfully driven me out of my family's life. Maggie, she said in that condescending tone I'd grown to hate, I'm so glad you're finally ready to work on yourself. It takes courage to admit when we have toxic patterns. I served dinner with a smile, letting her enjoy her moment of perceived victory.
David was being extra attentive to her, clearly proud of his enlightened wife who'd helped the family see the truth.
After dessert, I stood up and said, Jennifer, David, there's something I need to share with you both. I opened my laptop and began playing the recording of Jennifer discussing her manipulation strategy. The blood drained from Jennifer's face as her own voice filled the room, describing in detail how she'd convinced David and the girl that she was toxic. David's face went through a complete transformation, confusion, then recognition, then absolute horror as he realized he'd been manipulated just as much as Emma had been.
Jennifer, he whispered, what is this? But I wasn't done.
I showed them the financial records, the court documents from her previous relationship, the social media posts where she'd bragged about using Emma as content for her personal narrative. Jennifer tried to deny everything, but the evidence was overwhelming. When she finally realized she couldn't talk her way out of it, she revealed her true nature.
Fine, she screamed. You want the truth? Yes, I manipulated them.
This family was weak, and I gave them structure. Emma was a spoiled brat who needed to learn respect, and David was a mama's boy who needed to grow up. David stared at her like he was seeing a complete stranger. Jennifer,
you used my daughter. You made her doubt her own grandmother's love. I made her stronger.
Jennifer shot back.
And I made you independent from your controlling mother. That's when David finally understood what I'd been trying to tell him.
The woman he'd trusted with his family's emotional well-being was a predator who'd systematically destroyed the bonds that held us together. The final blow came when Emma walked in. I'd texted her to come over.
She looked at Jennifer with such clarity in her eyes and said, I remember everything now.
Every conversation, every comment, Every time you made me feel guilty for loving my grandmother.
You stole months of my life from me.
Jennifer's empire of manipulation crumbled in a single evening. And what happened next would be the most satisfying moment of this entire ordeal. Emma, what happened in the weeks after that dinner was like watching dominoes fall in the most satisfying way possible. Within 48 hours, Jennifer was gone. Not just from my house, but from David's life completely. She packed her things while he was at work and left a note saying she was moving on to a healthier family dynamic. Can you believe the audacity? Even in her goodbye note, she was using therapy speak to make herself sound like the victim. David was absolutely devastated, but not in the way you'd expect. He wasn't heartbroken over losing Jennifer, he was horrified by what he'd almost lost. That first night after she left, he showed up at my door at 11 p.m., crying like he hadn't cried since he was a little boy. "Mom," he said, "I almost lost you and Emma because of her. I almost destroyed the two most important relationships in my life for someone who was using us all along." The healing process took months. Emma started therapy to work through the psychological manipulation she'd endured. She told me later that Jennifer had made her doubt her own memories, her own feelings, even her own perception of reality. That's how deep the manipulation went. But you know what the most beautiful part of this whole experience was? Emma and I came out stronger than we'd ever been. She moved back in with me while she finished college, and we spent hours every day rebuilding our relationship. We created new traditions, new memories, new inside jokes. Last month, Emma brought home a wonderful young man named Tyler to meet me. After dinner, she pulled me aside and said, "Grandma, I want your honest opinion about him. Not because I'll automatically do whatever you say, but because I value your judgment." Jennifer made me forget that there's a difference between controlling someone and caring about them. That moment right there, that's when I knew we'd truly healed. As for Jennifer, well, karma has a funny way of catching up with people. Through my network of friends, I heard she tried the same manipulation game with her next boyfriend's family. But this time, she picked the wrong family. Turns out his sister was a licensed clinical psychologist who recognized Jennifer's tactics immediately and warned everyone. Jennifer's now living alone in a studio apartment, working retail, and according to what I heard, she's been blacklisted from several social circles in town. People talk, and word gets around about someone who manipulates families for their own gain.
David.
He's in therapy too, learning to recognize manipulation tactics and rebuild his confidence. He thanks me regularly for fighting for our family instead of just giving up. "Mom," he said recently, "you showed me what real strength looks like. Not the fake empowerment Jennifer was selling, but actual courage under fire." The most rewarding moment came 6 months later when Emma graduated college with honors. At her graduation party, which we held in my house, of course, she stood up to make a toast. "I want to thank my grandmother," she said, looking directly at me, "for never giving up on me, even when I was too manipulated to see what was happening. She fought for our relationship when I couldn't even fight for myself."
That's what real love looks like. There wasn't a dry eye in the room. You know what I learned from this whole experience? Sometimes the people who try to destroy your family actually end up making it stronger.
Jennifer thought she was breaking us apart, but she forced us to examine what really mattered. She made us fight for each other in ways we never had to before. I also learned that my 30 years as a paralegal weren't wasted. They prepared me to build the case of a lifetime when my family was under attack. Sometimes life gives you exactly the skills you need, exactly when you need them. Today, Emma calls me every Tuesday just to chat, exactly like she used to before Jennifer's poison campaign. David stops by every Sunday with groceries and helps me with projects around the house. We're not just a family again, we're a family that knows how precious these bonds really are.
And Jennifer?
Well, I heard through the grapevine that she started a blog about toxic family systems and boundary setting. The irony would be hilarious if it weren't so pathetic. But that's her journey to figure out. Mine is here, in this house my husband built, surrounded by the family I fought to protect.
Thank you for sharing this with us. And did you enjoy today's story? Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to Story Threads podcast for more amazing stories. See you next time.